So I bought a house, and then I followed what the guru said, and then my property manager in 6 months started stealing from me. It was terrible because I didn't know what I was doing. I did not plan everything out. I was just doing what I was told by other people who were just selling things. Well, here is one thing that I tell all my students. In fact, you won't hear any TikTok guru tell you this. This is what I tell everybody.
You think leverage is your greatest asset? It could actually destroy your entire portfolio. If you're a fund manager, deal syndicator, or an institutional investor who relies heavily on debt to scale, this conversation will reveal the hidden dangers and what the real pros do to survive and thrive where others fail. All this and more coming right now. Here we go. Dustin, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, Ryan? Hey, super blessed to be back on the show. I was on the show a couple of years ago, and then now I get to be back on the show, the Making Billions show. I'm like, when I heard that title, I was like, dude, that's legit. I like that title. And then I know your community is awesome. So I'm super blessed to be a part of the show again. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. You always stood out before. So let's jump in, man. You have been busy since the last time we spoke, scaling your business, getting involved in a lot of things. Now, you've repeatedly told your audience that piling on leverage is a myth for smart real estate investing. So what happened in your journey, either internal or external, that made you reverse course and just start aggressively paying down those properties rather than piling on more debt?
Yeah. So I now with 30 plus properties, single family homes, I also have almost 1,000 apartment complexes. And obviously with 1,000 apartment complexes, you have to have leverage. But the single family homes, that is what my bread and butter, that's where I make all my money to be able to feed my family. We make a lot of money every single month. Just a quick side note. If you buy and this is what I did. I said, if I bought one house that made $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year. 10 properties, that's $60,000 a year. 20 properties is $120,000. And that's just the minimum. And I've some properties making me $3,000 a month in passive income. And the reason why I started paying off all of my properties was a risk tolerance is really what it came down to. So when I was buying real estate, I started back in 2006 before the crash. And I was a little scared, or a lot scared, when everybody in 2008, 9, and 10, people who called themselves real estate investors, they were saying that, they're going bankrupt. Well, I was worried, but I didn't. I actually made more money because sadly, when people lose their homes in foreclosure because they're losing their jobs, then they become renters. And I focus on cash flow and I have a lot of rental properties. So I made more money. It was just the craziest thing. And then when I was quitting my job, I was talking to my wife. I said, hey, honey, I really feel like I should be able to quit now because we have plenty of cash flow coming in. I think at the time we had 23 properties or something like that. It was 2016. And she said, well, it'd be great if you could, but how about we pay off some of those properties, pay off some of the loans. So I don't have to, if you ever passed away, I don't have to worry about those. And I was like, oh, then I don't have that money to buy more real estate. That's what I always did. Just kept using leverage, and which is great, buying more and more properties. But then I realized, I was like, you know what? Risk tolerance is something that everybody has to agree with their spouse or with themselves. And now I started paying those off because I wanted to quit my job and I wanted to have a lot of cash flow coming in. Now, 90% of my properties, all the single family homes, are all paid off. And one thing that I do with my students, and so for you listening, like you think about, okay, what risk tolerance? Like, should I actually pay off all my properties? It's like, not everybody's going to be the same. In fact, I've coached thousands of students now how to invest in real estate, become financially independent. And in the process of getting there, you have to figure out your risk tolerance. Some people hate loans and they dip their toe in and they barely get, and they grow slowly, which is totally fine. That's their risk tolerance. Other people, what I try to do with all my students is encourage them to, I guess, grow a little stronger in their risk tolerance to be able to scale first, because you buy one, let's say you wait 40 years to buy a house because you're just scared of leverage, then that's 40 years of your life just wasted. Instead, if you use a little bit of leverage or a lot of bit of leverage, but you start working, but then everybody has to figure out what their goals are, what their financial needs are when they quit their job or become financially independent. And then that helps them to figure out what's their path. And so when you figure out your risk tolerance, and one other quick thing I'll say with your risk tolerance for me, I realize the most risky thing in the world is working for somebody else. And if you remember on my show, so everybody, you should go back and listen to my past show because I shared how and I'll jump right to the punchline. I got laid off and I was working for the government doing IT in California. And that is the most stable, secure job you could ever think of. But I got laid off. And if I got laid off, it probably can happen to you. And so for me, it's like, let's figure out what your risk tolerance is. And let's realize that the most risky thing is working for somebody else. Then everything else makes it a lot easier. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, it does. So planning that out and having that on one side, you have those assets that put money in your pocket, but the other one is, and I think that's at the core of the question, is it was to de-risk the deal. That's why we reduced the leverage mostly, or if not entirely, but we reduced it to levels much lower. Did that mentality, did that help you after the 2008 crash where maybe you had some equity buffer in your properties?
No, it wasn't equity at all. In fact, I lost equity on my properties, which, I was bummed, but I honestly didn't care because I was still making 300, 400, $500 a month in passive income. And I knew real estate would go back up. And it's a proven fact. Real estate doubles every 15 years. I mean, just think about that. Every 15 years, it doubles in value. So you buy one house that's $150,000 right now. And yes, if you're living on the coastlines, you might be thinking, how do you do that? Yes, there are still houses that are $150,000. Well, that house in 15 years is going to be $300,000. And then 15 years later, that's going to be $600,000. And so I just knew over time, it's going to take care of itself. I just need to make sure that I was able to feed my family from the cash flow that comes in.
Brilliant. Yeah, I remember I just for fun, I am no real estate investor, but we had a rental, I think for like 6 years with leverage. I think it was like a 300%, 350 in 6 years. It was something like that. Like that was a good one. I was pretty happy with that. So maybe you'll convince me to learn the dark arts of real estate, but definitely no complaints.
Yeah, the amazing thing about real estate is if you're raising money for an apartment complex and you're buying an apartment complex, you have more than likely you're going to exit at some point. With single family homes or residential, when I say single family, it means 4 units and below. I love the 4 units and below. Simple interest rates or mortgages that you can get, 30-year fixed, which is fantastic. And once after 30 years is over, you have it paid off. And if you see, you're probably listening to the podcast, but I have a picture of my 4 kids. I have 5 kids now, but I have a picture of my kids behind me. And I will literally give these properties to my kids in generational wealth. And so I make cash flow to feed them. And then when I pass, I will give that to them and they'll be able to feed their family with it. And we don't have to sell it because over 30 years, it'll be paid off. And one quick thing. I don't have to get a job to pay off this loan. My tenants pay for the loan. I don't pay for my taxes. I don't pay for my mortgage, my insurance, my property managers, meaning I don't have to get a job to pay those. The tenants pay for all those expenses. The money comes into me and I pay out all those bills. And then I make sure I make cash flow or passive income or profit on top of all that rent every single month.
That's brilliant, man. So at 37, when you started your successful unemployment by building that real estate business first and then buying properties, walk us through how you structured that business, like operations, cash flow team, just so the property side became secondary rather than the primary driver.
Yeah. So what I realized, well, actually, I'll take a step to the very beginning. When I first started investing back in 2006, I was following those quote unquote gurus. And so back in the day, there weren't TikTok gurus. Now there are, but there were those infomercial gurus. And so I would follow them. I spent lots of money doing those courses, but it was all garbage. And so today people are falling in for these TikTok and Instagram gurus that are just trying to tell you, just buy a property, it'll all work out. And now people are saying, just buy a business, it'll all work out. I'm like, there's a lot more to it than that. But so what I did was I followed those gurus and I bought my property. I was living in California at the time. California prices were crazy high. Couldn't rent it to make any money. So I started investing in Ohio. Of all places, I just picked a spot, map and just put my finger down. Let's try that. So I bought a house and then I followed what the gurus said. And then my property manager in 6 months started stealing from me. It was terrible because I didn't know what I was doing. I did not plan everything out. I was just doing what I was told by other people who were just selling things. Well, here is one thing that I tell all my students. In fact, you won't hear any TikTok guru tell you this. This is what I tell everybody. We need to stop being an investor. Instead, we need to become a business owner. And what that means is, an investor, let's say you have money, you put it in the stock market, you put it in there and you just really forget about it. You just hope that it goes up over time and hope is not going to feed your family. So you just hope that it goes up. And then you trust somebody you've never met to run a company that's supposed to make more money to make the value up so you can sell it and make money. Well, we don't want to be an investor. We want to be a business owner. We want to be the person that owns the company that then owns the real estate, that's our inventory. So what I suggest, and this is what I tell all my students, I've coached thousands of students now. In fact, how it started was I was in Ohio, eventually built that business, realized that property manager was stealing from me, realized I did everything wrong, and then started over from scratch. Started interviewing everybody, started finding the right people before I did any moves. And then once you have that business built, that's when you find the inventory that you put into your business. It's not a house that you're going to live in as like a primary residence. You don't fall in love with the house. No. Is it a good investment for a inventory, a piece of inventory that puts into your business? And let me give you a quick understanding in analogy of what that looks like. So let's say you're going to build a convenience store, candy bars and soda machines and all the good stuff. Well, you would not sign a lease on a location, open the doors and set a box of candy bars in there on the ground. You wouldn't do that. You go out of business in 2 seconds. But what you would do is you would get the gondolas. Those are shelving units that all the candy bars go on, the cold storage, countertops, bank accounts, cash registers, insurance, employees, like everything in the business before you buy any inventory. And then once you have the entire business built, then you buy the inventory and then you put it into your business, and then you start generating revenue or income in your business. Now, what I've had a lot of people say, hey, Dustin, I followed those TikTok gurus. I bought a house and I spent thousands of dollars to buy it, thousands of dollars to fix it up. And then I tried to find a tenant. Nobody would want to rent it. I tried to find a property manager. Nobody would want to manage it because the manager would say, I'm not going to manage it because I'll get shot there. It's like, well, you no longer have an asset. You now have a liability. So what I suggest instead is, instead of calling a property manager saying, property manager, I already bought this house. Will you manage it? They say no. Instead, you say, property manager, I'm looking to buy this property. Give me the address. How much will it rent for? What's the vacancy factor? Will you manage it? What's the clientele like? All these questions that are going to help you to know if it's a good deal to buy, a good investment, a good piece of inventory to buy. If they say no, you do not waste your time and money buying that house and having a liability. If they say yes, they're going to give you expert information. So if I were to go all the way back to the beginning, so for what it means for you is, if you're investing in real estate, if you're already got started or if you're brand new and you're just getting started, the key is to find the key people in your business, experts, first, before you do anything. And just imagine you started that convenience store and you said, hey, I need to have somebody run my business. There's somebody walking across the street. They got a pulse. Hey, you come in here and you just manage my company, manage my employees, manage my money and customer. No, you wouldn't do that. You would interview a lot of different people and pick the right person for your business. Could be property manager, or relating now to real estate, property managers, contractors, mortgage brokers, insurance agents, inspectors, and realtors. They're a little bit last because there's lots of realtors. But what I'm saying is, we build the entire business first. Stop thinking of it as an investor. Think of it as a business owner, that you're making money every single month and you have experts do the work for you.
Brilliant. I've come to realize that the difference between being rich and being wealthy, while both have a good amount of money, you could say financially free, it's really easy to get sucked into being the owner-operator model, which is the opposite of what you and I are talking about. Better yet, to move from being rich to being wealthy is you have an abundance of time and capital. And the best way to do it is exactly what you said, is you want to shift from being an owner-operator to just being an owner. So you want to own businesses that other people run, even if it's a real estate business or private equity, you're buying car washes, whatever it might be. But hopefully in your own perspective, for those who are listening, is that you want to say, I don't want to just be rich, I want to be wealthy, which means I have an abundance of time and I reinvest that time into meaningful relationships, starting with family, if you have one, if you're blessed to have one. But regardless, having those reputation, your relationships, and your results. So when you are an owner, then you get capital and you have time and money, and you invest that in reputation, relationships, and results. And that's your flywheel for business success that I've been able to find. Anything you can add to that?
That's 100% right. And anything, like, I've raised capital for my apartment complexes. And the reason why I was able to do it, and very easily, I might add, is because for 10 years, people have known me as a real estate investor. And I have not let anybody down. I'm the same person from 10 years ago to now, with my coaching and everything I do, when I say that people have known me. And so when I just reached out and I said, hey, everybody, I'm going to be buying a 355 unit apartment complex. If you want to invest in my deal, you can. I got so many people just reaching out right away because they've been waiting to invest with me. But one quick thing I'll add too. So we're talking about just a minute ago about building a business, and we're not investors, we're business owners. One quick thing that I have to say is that business owners do not go into business to lose money. They do not go into business to lose money every single month. They go into business every single time they sell something to make money from it. Let me give you a quick example. So let's say you had a candy bar business where you can buy it for 50 cents and every day, all day, you can sell it for $1. You're thinking, man, how do I buy as many candy bars as I can? Because I'll make 50 cents. Well, that's what you do, is you buy something, or you get something that you're going to be your inventory for your properties, but then you also sell it for more. So 50 cents you buy it for, sell it for $1, you make 50 cents. But you would not buy it for $1 when you can sell it for $1 and hope in 2-3 years you can sell it for $2. You don't do that. No, you go into business knowing that day one you're going to make money. Now, here's the one quick amazing thing about real estate. Imagine you didn't have that 50 cents to buy that candy bar, but it cost you 25 cents to borrow 50 cents. Well, you're out of pocket 75 cents. You still sell it for $1. You make 25 cents every single candy bar. You're thinking, how do I borrow more money? Because I could buy more inventory to sell it. Same thing. So when you realize, if you build a business, you hire experts, just like you said, you want to make sure that you're the owner. You're not the operator. I don't even know I don't have information for my tenants. I don't want to talk to them. They don't even know who I am. I have other people doing all the work. So I own the business. And then I hire experts who live there on the ground. In fact, I invest in Ohio, Texas, Arizona, Tennessee, and Indiana. And I've done it so many times, like building a business with the system, like building it over and over and over again, that now it's just a rinse and repeat type model. And that's what I've been coaching thousands of students now how to do. But every single time, I make sure that I get the experts because I don't want to do the work. I want other people to do the work. So I, like you said, I now have time with my family. I go on awesome podcasts, like Making Billions podcasts. I go to the gym 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, just because I can. I go play golf. I travel the world because I have time now because I've hired experts in the business to run the business for me.
Brilliant. So now you're the epitome of the retire young, and now you're able to say, because I'm an owner, not an operator to some degree, now I'm able to have the life that most people dream, and you're still young enough to enjoy it. So I love that. Now you've promoted the 1-minute green light deal analyzer. So for sophisticated fund managers, what are the 3 strategies that most investors get wrong, and how do you correct those?
Yeah, so I created, and it was for myself because I'm an investor. Even though I have, my podcast or solo show coaching people how to do it to, Instagram or whatever, all the coaching that I do in conferences, it's because I'm an investor, because I'm a business owner that invests in real estate. So clarify, business owner that invests in real estate, even though I just said, do not be an investor, be a business owner. So I invest in real estate and I started coaching people and I started giving away my green light deal analyzer. It's a 1-minute green light deal analyzer. So yeah, I created it because I needed it for my business. And then I started selling that. Now I think it's like, I don't know, $20. I'm like, hey, get it for free, or not get it for free, get it for $20 and then use it for however you want. But now when you're getting apartment complexes or just commercial real estate, this 1-minute green light deal analyzer is a little more simple, obviously for residential, 40 and some below. And so when you get to, and how I look at it is for raising capital for larger apartment complexes, commercial real estate, I realized that there's still principles, even though the calculator is much more simple, there's still principles that I had to have in everything. The number one thing, and so right now we own almost 1,000 units, and in every single one of those properties, we raise capital, and in about like 10 to maybe 15 days, we raise either, let's say, this actually in May, we raised almost 11 million, and we had in 10 days, we raised $11 million in 10 days. There was 3 other general partners and myself, and we had to shut off say no more sending in money. We cannot take your money. We're done, because it was such an amazing deal. And the reason why is because of capturing equity when we bought it. The seller was distressed and they needed to get out of the property. So we bought it for $60,000 a unit and this is Chattanooga, Tennessee, $60,000 a unit, when right now we could literally go around and turn around and sell it for 110 at the bare minimum, like fire sale, $110,000 per unit. And so everybody that they're the investors are like, oh my goodness, like just day one, we've got so much equity. So what I love to do is buying assets, single family homes, apartment complexes, like you name it. I want to capture equity when I buy it. If I don't capture equity, I don't buy it. I love to get either 10, 20 or more % in equity capture when I buy it, because I love the saying, amazing saying, you make your money when you buy your property, you realize it when you sell it. And so when we go and sell it, more than likely, let's say 3 to 4 years, maybe 5 years, we go and sell it, it'll probably be like 130, 140,000. I mean, that's a lot of great money coming in. So that's why when I raise capital, because I'm only investing in amazing deals, my investors are jumping all over it because they make a lot of money. Now, the other one, or 2 other ones, you want to make sure that the debt, at least this is what I do, I don't want to get stuck. Like if I buy a house with a hard money loan and it's a 12-month loan, and then I can't refinance because interest rates are higher or some problem, and I can't get out of that 12-month loan, then I'm stuck. And I'm paying a lot of money, like 24, 25% in interest, and juice just keeps going. Same thing with apartment complexes or commercial real estate. I want to make sure that we have really good debt on the property. I personally like longer duration. I would never get into a 1 to maybe 3 year loan. It should at least be a 5 year. Like I want to make sure I at least have 5 year runway. One of them we bought, it had 5 to 7 years. Like the 7 year is the how long we can hold it before we have to do something about it. So we have a huge runway. At the same time, obviously, you want to have lower interest rates. Those are really, really good. But at the same time, for me, I just want to make sure that the debt is so favorable so that obviously when you buy it lower than the purchase price or market value, then you have less of a mortgage, less expense, less mortgage payment every single month, which is more cash in your pocket. And so that's why I also want to make sure that, and sometimes we even get interest only on the first 2 years because we know we're going to turn around and sell it eventually in, let's say, 5 years. And so we don't necessarily need to pay down the principal because we've already captured, 50% in equity. And so we get interest only, so we get more cash flow up front. Now, the other third one was we love to buy in the same area of the country or even in the same general area where we've already built. Give you an example. We in 2024, we bought a property, 355 units near Nashville. Great apartment complex. Our investors are loving it. They're absolutely loving this property. And this property has two major, I guess, complexes for it. And in the middle of it is separated by a different apartment complex that we did not own. So just imagine 3 apartment complexes and one in the middle is not ours. Well, we just got under contract. We've been talking to them for a long time, 3 or 4 years. And we said, yeah, if you're ever looking to sell, we're going to buy it. Well, came on the market because they did not follow debt number 2. They did not get good debt. They are actually going to have to lose it to the bank because they got horrible financing on it. And so, and in 2 weeks, we got to close because it's going to be bad for them. So we already raised the money. We're about ready to buy it. It's going to be great. But here's the great thing. With economies of scale, we already have that 355 unit apartment complex. This 94 unit will basically turn this into a 450 unit apartment complex. And so we have the same property manager. So the economies of scale, more units brings down our cost per unit. Let's say just a simple thing as painting the walls. We're going to use the same paint in all the rooms. There's no reason to just change paint, but we get a lot better discount because we have all these different same units and we spread out the cost to all the units. So I personally love being able to continually grow in one area and have economies of scale to where my expenses keep coming down because of the investing or the business building that I do.
Brilliant. So with those economies of scale and all of the long-term debt and making sure the long duration is good, capturing equity in the beginning, sounds like really if someone was in your shoes, it just means that you would need to approach a deal as a long-term thinking investor. And dare I say, making sure your investors know that making them money is the end game. Can you agree with that or anything?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And so a lot of our investors, obviously, they'd love to get their money, double their money in like 2 years or 3 years, but we tell them, no, hey, this is our projection. This is where we're going. And we've also secured financing. So we're actually a little more protected than some others. But in the end, when I talk to my investors, they look at our deal deck and they see everything from the equity capture. They see the return that they're going to be getting. They also see the cash flow that we're going to be building up. We see the debt. And so in the end, we structure ours as if we were LPs looking at our deal. Hey, is this a good deal if I were an LP? If it's not, then more likely our investors aren't going to like it. And so we try to structure it so that our LPs, the limited partners, ones that are investing the money, that they are super excited about these properties.
Got it. Now, paying it down, you've done a pretty cool method for paying it down called the Snowball method. So why do you believe this beat rapid scaling in today's market? And how should fund managers or syndicators evaluate when to accelerate versus pay down?
So everybody, like I said at the very beginning, everybody has different risk tolerances, but you also have to realize everybody has different goals. Now, I personally loved that it's called the Snowball method, where you pay down. Let's say it's a credit card, make it a little simpler. Let's say you have 5 credit cards and you've charged up each one, but you want to pay them off. Well, I go after the one with the least amount of total principal so I can knock that credit card out and that entire minimum monthly payment and the payment I was making to get rid of that credit card, I could then apply to the second one and then get that one paid off as fast as possible. And then I start paying towards the third one and so on. Same thing with real estate. So if somebody has the risk tolerance, they're like, you know what? I would love to have all my properties paid off. That is by far one of the best ways to go because once you have that entire minimum payment knocked out, that goes right to the second one and that property. And I just definitely case in point, when I was paying these off, it was so fast. And just like a snowball going down a hill, you make a small snowball. Well, it accelerates and grabs more snow as it goes down, but then it gets heavier. It gets heavier, which makes it go even faster and roll even faster. And the bigger it gets, the better it gets. And then in the end, I had so much cash flow coming in because now your biggest expense out of any investing or business building you're doing is your mortgage, your debt. That's the biggest expense. That's why banks they have all the money. If you instead switch it to where you don't owe any banks, then you have so much money. Now, I will say, though, at the same time, what I personally do is if I see a really good deal and I have a lot of equity, I'll take some of that equity. Give you an example. We were buying the 325 unit apartment complex in Chattanooga, Tennessee, about 6 months ago. And I wanted to get some capital. So I had a bunch of 30 plus properties. I think, like I said, 90% of them are paid off. And I took out cash out, refinance out of 6 of them. pulled out 550 grand, 6.5% DSCR loan. So in 30 years, it'll be paid off. It's a fantastic loan. But I put out $550,000, put a good chunk of money into our deal. But then I also bought 3 single family homes with it. Now I got some other loans and everything like that. But what I looked at was, now that I have so much equity, I have access to that capital now, and I'm able to buy more real estate. Now, what I also love to, I understand now, in 2008, people, they were speculating, the ones that went bankrupt, these real estate investors. In fact, I know a guy, he's got a podcast. I won't say his name. I won't even say his podcast, but he lost in 2008, $65 million, went bankrupt, $65 million. Because basically he just bought lots and lots of properties, but he got so over leveraged that he went belly up, $65 million. And that's speculating. When you are hoping that the value goes up, or anticipating, or whatever you want to call it, let me say it this way. I don't even care if the value goes up. I care if the rents go up because I want more cash flow. And when I say I don't care, it's not like I don't want it to go up. I know it will go up. I'm not hoping. I just know, and I'll hold it long enough to eventually be able to capitalize on it. Let's say pull out that cash, all that equity that I have in my properties. It's easy for me just to get a refinance. In fact, I have lenders now. For my students and myself, I got lenders in less than 30 days. We could refinance some of my properties, pull the cash out so I can buy more real estate. And so what I don't want to do, and what it means for you listening, is my suggestion is, instead of speculating, hoping that the value goes up and thinking, okay, it didn't go up, I'm stuck and I got to go bankrupt. But if you're making cash flow, then you can also turn that around to then pay off those loans, so that in the future you have more cash flow, as well as you can tap into the equity whenever you want.
So moving for cash flow over capital gains, not that neither is that bad, or either is that bad, but I would say, based on what you're saying, is look for the cash flow before the capital gains. Is that right?
Absolutely. And well, I mean, the big reason why is because I wanted financial independence. If I'm working 40 plus hours to somebody else, what does the equity do to me? Equity doesn't do anything for me. As soon as I was done and had 40 plus hours of my life back, I mean, imagine people are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Imagine having 80 hours of your life back every single week. Well, let me also say this. The most people will always tell you, okay, the last question, and the answer usually is the same. What's the most expensive commodity or thing you can ever spend in your life? People say that it's time. I don't disagree, but I'll add one thing to it. It's not time. Time doesn't matter. Time absolutely does not matter. What does matter is life. So when you accumulate your entire life, all the time that you are here on this earth, then that is the culmination of your life. You do not, if you spend your life in a way that's making somebody else rich, taking away from your fun, your happiness, to traveling, what hobbies, what family, whatever it might be, then that's the most expensive thing you can spend, is your entire life. Imagine being 70 years old, retiring, not having enough money, and then having to go back to work at Walmart because you don't have enough money coming in because you're not working for somebody else. So my suggestion is, if you focus on the cash flow, money coming in, so you can then have 40, 50, 60 plus hours of your life back, then you can start an amazing podcast like Making Billions and help a lot more people.
It's a lot of fun. Well, I appreciate that, man. Hey, if you're finding value out of this discussion, could you do me a huge favor? Could you just take a second and hit that like or subscribe button? It costs you nothing, but it tells the algorithm that this is valuable information, and it helps us to get it to more people. Thank you. You're incredible. Now let's get back to the show. So, you've owned 30 plus single family homes and apartment complexes. So how did you decide when it was time to transition to asset classes, and what systems had to change when you did that?
So I grew up playing Monopoly. It was one of the funnest games that we did growing up. I was very poor. My family was very poor. We lived in a 2-bedroom, 900 square foot house, very, very poor. And I didn't know I was poor. It's just the way it was. And it was great. Life was fantastic, but we played Monopoly. And I thought I would love to eventually be able to own hotels or multifamily apartment complexes. So and this is honestly, a lot of people tell you, oh, jump right into apartment complex because it's the same amount of work for residential as they're full of crap. I'm sorry to be crass, but they're full of garbage. It's a lot more work buying an apartment complex than a single family home. If you bought a house to live in, that you see how easy it is. It's so simple. There's so little moving parts. So same thing with investing. If you could jump right into in Monopoly, well, I don't think it's actually even possible to jump unless you started having billions of dollars. You can't jump right to multifamily. You have to go through buying the land and then buying each individual house and then growing and building it up and demolishing those and putting in the multifamily, the hotels. And so what I suggest, and this is what I've done, is I wanted to make sure that I was stabilizing all of my income from my properties and having cash flow. In fact, I know somebody, she has And she touts that, oh, I have 4,000 units that I own. I asked the question. I know the answer. Oh man, how long have you been financially independent? She goes, I'm not. I still have to work a job. I'm like, you have 4,000 headaches and you're not financially independent, meaning like that's not releasing you from your liabilities. Oh my goodness, that's terrible. I got 30 homes. And that made me so much more so. So single family home is bread and butter, and it's so simple to do. And you hire experts. There's so many property managers, so many contractors, so many plumbers. Like that's the easiest thing. So I personally suggest starting with 4 units and below, single family home. And then when you then have enough for cash flow for financial independence, you can quit your job. And I like the term successfully unemployed, become successfully unemployed. Then you have more time. And then the more time you devote to serving other people. And I like when I say that, I'm not saying that like quickly, I'm going to jump right back into it. When you serve people, you make more money and they make more money. When you start looking at life as a scarcity mindset, oh, there's not enough to go around, I got to keep it all to myself. You're going to have scarcity. You're going to live scarce and you're not going to have as much. When you start thinking of abundance, there's so much abundance for like, instead of the world's out to get me, how about the world's out to help me? And then you find great people to be around because they want to be around you because you're helping them and they want to help you out. And so how I transition, because I still do both, still do residential, love residential. I will never stop buying those. But then also wanted to get into multifamily, but I did not want to be an expert in multifamily. Jumping right into my first property was a 355 unit apartment complex that was multifamily. And it wasn't me. I didn't find it. I have friends of mine. I've known them for a number of years. I put on a large conference called the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, and they came and spoke at my conference a couple of years, and we just got to be good friends. And then after a while, they said, hey, Dustin, we've been buying a lot of apartments, and we bought this big one. It's pretty big. We need a little help with raising capital. We think you could do it. I said, really? I've never done it before. They said, yes, you've been podcasting for 8 years, and everybody loves you. You should absolutely. I said, okay, I'll try. So I put out a couple podcast episodes and a couple emails to my newsletter and raised $1.5 million in like, I don't know, a week or two. And then we had to close it down because we had so much money. But what I'm trying to say is what I love to do is I love getting around amazing people. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. In fact, I hate being the smartest person in the room. I want to be the dumbest person in the room so that I'm learning from other people or we're all working together to help each other out. So getting into multifamily, it was because I got around the right people, awesome people who are doing this, that they're experts too. Just like I hire experts to manage my single family homes, I get around experts that do multifamily, like I'm the expert for residential. They're the experts in multifamily. And all I got to do is bring what I can bring to the game. I do a little bit of asset management with them, but the biggest thing they needed help was raising capital. And so because they know I know people, they brought me in. And now we're personally, like I'm looking for more multifamily properties myself because I've been learning off of them. It's just getting around the right people is how I've done it.
I love that. You know, we always talk about in my show and the different communities on raising capital at Fundraise Capital. We say the 3 most valuable assets in your possession are your reputation, your relationships, and your results. And as you invest in those and grow those, it is probably the best thing I've ever seen to make investors and capital come to you. That when you have a good reputation and your partners, so you got capital coming to you, you got deals coming to you, you've got partners coming to you, and that all stems from having a good reputation. By that, I mean integrity. Have great relationships with people who are also empire builders, if we want to call them that, and you've produced some results. So it's saying like, hey, not all talk, we can do that. And so I think it sounds like you've leveraged reputation, relationships, and results, plus those with partners. And that was a big shift for you. As far as some of the systems, maybe it's a little bit more intangible, but those are some of the things that changed for you. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
I don't know, man. I love that. So you're teaching your kids rental property investing. You mentioned that you're going to leave them some properties. So how do you translate that into multi-generational capital vehicle mindset? I know we got a lot of family offices that listen to the show. And so legacy is a big, important thing. You don't have to have a family office to have a legacy, but that is an important mandate. So maybe these are some things that family offices may struggle to operationalize. How do you do it?
How I do it is, number one is my wife is amazing and I have the easy job of making money. She has the hard job of homeschooling our kids. So we've been homeschooling. I don't have much to do with it. My wife does all the work, but she's been homeschooling. We've been homeschooling our kids ever since, like they've never been in a public school. And we realized, actually, no, it was me. And she helped me to come to the realization that honestly, any school, college, university, whatever, nobody in any of those can teach my kids better than I can how to make money, how to produce, how to be a good member of society, at least in my opinion. Now there might be, but I don't care. I know I can produce amazing people. I've got thousands of students now, coaching students, showing them how to invest in real estate. I put on my conferences, 300, 400, 500 people come. So I know how to influence people. I know how to help people to have better lives. And I was like, why don't we just do that for our kids? So the number one thing that I first do for my kids, we have 5 kids now, very blessed to have 5, is now education. I coach them and train them up in business now. So the beginning of their lives until they get to like middle of high school, they're learning from mommy. And then now they're transitioning to where I'm now coaching them on business, on leadership, entrepreneurship, everything that they need to be great producers in life. And so number one, education. Also, I've got great courses. I've created 6 different courses on real estate investing, financial independence, even a financial literacy course, because I had a lot of people come to me and say, Dustin, I have bad credit. Well, take this course. Anyways, so my kids are going through those courses as well. So my goal is to educate them. Now, that's number one. Number 2, exposing them to everything that I do, from real estate investing to podcasting to my conferences. My kids come and help run my conference. They'll be passing out badges and all the good stuff. But I want them to be with me every single step of the way so they experience it. Not that they read a book and they have to figure it out on their own. No, I want them to walk through it as I do it. In fact, one thing I've done is, just for example, so I want my boys to be able to have a trade that they can, if they needed a job, they can have a trade rather than going to college. In fact, I think college is a scam, unless you're a lawyer, engineer, or doctor, something that you need a lot of knowledge. Most people, you don't need that. But anyways, I went and I've remodeled most of my houses myself. I've definitely pretty handy. And so I remodeled our master bathroom. Brought my kids, my boys they helped me. They watched everything. And then when we got all done, I said, all right, boys, there's our hall bath. It's your turn to remodel it. And they were like 12 and 13 when they remodeled the first one with me. And they were like 13 and 14 when they did it themselves. Now, I did all the plumbing. I didn't want it to leak. I made sure that, but like from the demo to the laying of the tile to they did all of that. And so it's by helping them, not just by reading a book, but do this with me. And one quick last one I'll share is I read the Bible multiple times a day. And I love that the Bible says a righteous man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, not just his children, which is great. You should 100% do. That's like a bare minimum, but you should continue to grow everything, your wealth, your riches, your education, your knowledge, everything, so that your children's children also benefit from it as well. And so that's what I'm striving for now, is making sure that everything I have. In fact, I was just thinking today, actually literally today, I don't know why I was thinking about it, but I would love to be able to leave at least $10 million. That's just a round number, at least $10 million to my kids. If not, I would love it for each one of my kids to have $10 million that they are able to build up and grow. But at the same time, here's one quick thing. My daughter, you can't see the picture, but my daughter, she's 16 years old now. She bought her first rental property. She went through my courses, went through my coaching. Now, obviously, I helped her, coached her just like that, but she took her life savings. Now, you, wherever you're listening, what this means for you is wherever you are, you're more than likely at a much better position than my daughter, 16 years old, that bought it. It doesn't take a rocket science. It doesn't take a lot of money. It just takes you being able to step out in belief that you can do it. And so if my daughter can do it, I 100% know that you can do it as well.
So family certainly is that heritage, and thank you for quoting scripture. That's definitely a making billions first, and hopefully not the last. So it sounds like building that legacy really comes down to what I would call education, exposure, and ethos. Right? Education is don't just give them private, teach them. The exposure is kind of dovetailing onto that to say, well, not just sit down at the dinner table and let dad teach you, but it's also like, hey, I got a meeting with my lawyer. We're going to go over some contract stuff. Why don't you come with me? Or we got a walkthrough with a property manager, whatever that is, or we're renovating a bathroom. Let's see if you know your way around an air nailer or whatever that might be. And then ultimately having some overarching ethos, which just says, hey, the reason why I'm doing this is to give my children's children an inheritance. That matters to me. That's legacy matters to me. It's not just going to be a flash in the pan, but this is going to be a branch off the family tree that who comes from this is going to be very blessed. I love that. Anything else you can add to that?
No, you summed it up really well.
That's awesome, man. So what was your internal turning point when you shifted from I'm buying rentals to I own an income producing business? So what were some of those misbeliefs you had to purge, and how did you reframe the change that drove that asset behavior?
Well, it came out of when I first started investing back in 2006. I read a couple books. I went to one of those infomercial, free things. Hey, we're coming to your town. And it's all a hype and sales pitch for, $10, $20, $30, $100,000 courses. And so I did all that, and I was just following what they were doing. And so I didn't know any better. And so my property manager, like I said a little bit earlier, in 6 months started stealing from me because I did not know what I was doing. But at the same time, I've started many businesses before, and I thought, okay, if I approach this in a business mindset, then I could probably do this better. I was just following what other people say. Oh, just buy, like I said earlier, oh, just buy a property and find a property manager. They'll take care of it. Like, no, that's not it. You're going to get hurt if you do that. I've seen so many people. I got hurt doing that. So what I realized when that was the mindset shift was that I need to actually be the business owner. I can't just invest my money and then let somebody else take care of it. I need to actively be the manager of the business. I want to say manager, owner of the business that's making sure that everything's working right. I don't want to do the work, but I have other people to do it. But I also want to quit my job in 10 years. So it was 2006. Yeah, 2006. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, great book that basically just teaches you active income is terrible. Passive income, where you work one time, get paid over and over again, is amazing. So instead of where I was working active income, I'd work an hour, get paid for that hour. I was like, I got to do something else. So I bought one rental property. And then I realized, my goodness, I need to do this. Like, this needs to be what I do for the rest of my life, is become a business owner investing in real estate. And so what I did was I said, I'm giving myself 10 years. It's a deadline. It's not a goal. It's deadline. And so even if I don't make it, I'm still going to quit my job. So I better make it. I got a family. And so I realized that I needed to build a business. Now, the great thing was, as I was building the business in that first city that I was investing in, I realized, my goodness, I've got, 10, 12 properties here. Maybe I could or should branch out to other cities and get not all my eggs in one basket. Maybe I should have different cities with different property managers, different companies. So in case one dies or, they do terrible, then I'm not depending on that. I have, the risk kind of mitigated or, spread out. And so I realized that I created a system. After I did it in 5 different states, I was like, oh my goodness, I have a system that now this is what the mindset shift to be a business owner helped me to have the systems, or put systems in place, processes and procedures in place. And then that's what I coach my students, because I've already proved it to myself that I work 5 different times or 5 different states, many different cities in those states. And then now that's what I coach my students. And honestly, my students are even better at it than I am, because I fast track them. They don't have to unlearn. Just like if you're playing golf and you play golf for 10 years and you have the worst swing in the world and you're making it through, and then you actually kind of get lessons and you're like, okay, show me what to do. And the golf instructor's like, oh my goodness, you have to unlearn all the things that are bad in your swing. This is going to take forever. That's where I was. Now I'm showing people, now they don't have any knowledge. They've never done it. And so I'm able to help them from square one, do everything right, and skip all the pain, thousands and $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 lost doing it the wrong way.
Man, that is brilliant. It sounds like an absolute wild ride, man. Yeah. So, you talk about being successfully unemployed. I like that arc, but it seems like it's because you reduce risk rather than simply chasing yield. So how do you define risk in this era of higher rates and sticky inflation for real estate investors?
Yeah, I said this a little bit earlier. It's so much more risky working for somebody else, somebody that can literally lay you off or fire you at any given time. And in fact, one thing that I'm teaching my my kids right now, is they are worth more than anybody can ever pay them. They're worth so much more than that. So for you listening, I want you to realize you're worth more than anybody could ever pay you. And this is how you'll know. Your boss is paying you just enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much money it takes money out of their pockets. If they paid you what you were worth, they would go broke. So you realize it's so much more risky, because they could find somebody else to replace you and just fire you for whatever reason they wanted. Instead, if you realize that the risk is mitigated because you build a business, because you know your business, and then you hire experts to run that business, and then you buy inventory that just like that candy bar analogy, I know without a shadow of a doubt, any property that I buy that's going to make me cash flow every single month, or I don't buy it. Give you an example. I suggest for all my students, you want to buy a house that makes you over $500 every single month. Well, how do you do that? How do you make sure you mitigate those risks? Well, it's very, very simple. You add up all your expenses, taxes, insurance, mortgage, if HOA or homeowner association, a property manager, vacancy, repairs. Like, you add up all of these expenses and you get a total. But you do not stop there. That's not your only expenses, or those aren't your only expenses. There's one more expense. That other expense is your profit. You want to make sure, let's say all my expenses, including mortgage and everything, is $1,000. Well, I know I need to make $500 on this property. I add on an expense line item, meaning I'm not guessing if I'm going to make it. I'm making sure that $500 is an expense line item. So all of my expenses are $1,500 on this property. If I could rent it for $1,600, then great. I'm making $600 in passive income because there's $100 extra. But if I could only rent it for $1,400, then I'm kind of wondering, whoa, am I overpaying for this property? If I can only rent it for $1,100, I'm like, I'm not buying it because I'm not making enough money. And so that's what I love to look at is we mitigate or manage the risk. In fact, it's almost where I don't have risk because real estate goes up over time. We know that every 15 years it doubles and rents go up all the time. In fact, I don't even worry about inflation anymore because my rents go up with inflation. I make more money. And when I realize I've mitigated all these risks, it's so much easier because just like riding a bike, when you ride a bike for the first time, you've never done it before, you're going to crash and hurt yourself because you don't know what you're doing. But let's say you have somebody, an expert teacher that's always taught everybody and knows how to get you riding right away. You start riding the bike, you start riding, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm going, and this is awesome. Then you never forget. That's what I do with my students. I help them every single step of the way, do it right the first time. Because I've made every single mistake you could think of after investing for 20 years now. I've made every single mistake I could think of, or you can think of, as well as I've got experts around me. I've got rid of bad companies that I used to work with, bad experts or whatever. And I got the right people around me. And then now my students get on the bike or, investing. Once they buy their first property, they're like, oh my goodness, Dustin, you're right. This was not as hard as I thought it was going to be because you fear the unknown. Unknown is very easy to fear, but when you have somebody that's walked that path, that's done it before, especially somebody who's coached thousands of people now, my students are so happy that now they don't have to worry about any of that risk because I've already helped them mitigate that one. The other quick last one was I actually want interest rates to go higher, which you'll never hear any TikTok guru tell you that. They say, oh, interest rates are coming down. Now it's time to buy. I'm like, no. I want interest rates to go up. I've been waiting for interest rates to go up for a very long time. And you may be thinking, well, Dustin, are you crazy? Well, here you got to think about this. Well, people ask me, well, Dustin, you coach thousands of people. Are you coaching your competition? Like, aren't the properties going to be gone? Aren't you worried about them? Like, no, actually, there's so many properties in the world, especially in America. There's so many properties in America that my competition are not investors. There's so few of them compared to how many are my competition? Homeowners. They're the ones that overpay for the property. They're the ones that fall in love with it. They're the ones that get terrible mortgages because they love the property. Those are my competition. When interest rates go up, that means they're priced out. Prices come back down. Now, here's the great thing. I don't care about interest rates because I do not have to get a job to pay that interest. My tenants pay that interest. Now, the money comes to me and I pay all the bills. But all that interest is taken care of. It's the cost of doing business. Same thing, my cash flow. So I don't care with market swings. I don't care with interest rates. I don't care about any of that. Actually, no. Here's another one. I'll quickly say one more thing. If the market goes up, I make money. If the market goes down, I make money. If the market goes sideways, I make money. And why do I make money? Because I invest for cash flow. The equity will always be there, and I'll tap into it, buy more real estate. But it's the cash flow that feeds my family.
Cash is king, man. I absolutely love it. Now, you mentioned about some of your students, and I know you teach how to turn those rental properties into, we'll say, automatic businesses. So for someone managing syndications, what are the 3 most overlooked systemizing steps to turn their operation into an automatic cash flow machine?
What it really comes down to is the people around you. Especially, single family homes, there's a fewer amount of people that you need around you, mortgage broker, maybe a title company, realtor, property manager, contractor. There's a fewer people that you need in there. But when you're doing something that you're managing some sort of commercial real estate, you need a lot more of the right people that you can remove yourself from the operations. Now, we've toyed with the idea, we have over almost 1,000 units now, toyed with the idea of starting our own property management company because that's a lot of money going out to a property manager. And we know we would take care of our properties even more. But at the same time, our property manager that we have now, they're amazing. We cannot get our expense as low as they are currently charging us because we have so many. I think we have, so I have 1,000 with my partners, but they have some other units. And so altogether, I think we all own like 1,500 to 1,800. And this one property manager handles ours and a lot of others. So their expense is so minuscule. So here's my suggestion. If you get around the right people like me, I am not the operator of the apartment complexes. My 2 general partners, they're amazing. At the same time, I'm not the property manager. We hire the right property managers, and with the economies of scale, their expenses are our expenses so low because they have got their business so dialed in that makes us so much money. And so that's number one. You got to get around the right people, especially when you're doing multifamily or commercial, because there's so many more moving parts. But also, I love having CRM or like software. AI and everything like that, those are great, but at the same time, let me before I say something about AI, what I want everybody to realize. So you need to realize that real estate is not about properties. Business is not about products, and life is not about experiences. Real estate's about people. Business is about people. and life is about people. If you make your focus on people, your life will get better. So if you try to remove everything out of your life and just go with AI, trust me, you're going to have a very lonely life. We're not made to be alone in a room with AI. It's not going to work. But at the same time, it's also going to help you. It's also going to help you streamline things. Like when I'm talking to my my investors, we do have a portal that they're able to log in, that all the paperwork is, all their information. So, and most company or most syndicators or most apartment complexes owners, they're going to have this software. But software has been huge help. But also, here's a great thing that when I raise capital, it's very simple. Like it doesn't take me a lot of work. And the big reason why is because for the last 10 years, I've been putting out organic evergreen content. Like I'm not buying ads for any of this stuff. I've been putting out so much content for 10 years, just sharing how I invest in real estate. Like my podcast, I think we're at 2.2 million downloads now. And it's basically a solo show. I just teach. That's all I do is I just keep teaching. And because I've been putting out for almost 10 years now with my podcast, with my YouTube, with my books and everything like that, people have seen me for so long that they trust me. And then all I needed to do was to put it out there that I have a property that I'm buying. If you want to invest with me, you can. And I got in like the first, 2 weeks, I got like 20 people fill out this form. Yes, I'm an accredited investor. Yes, I have money. Yes, I've been waiting for you to invest. I want to invest in your deals. And so what I love is having when I say evergreen content, it's like I'm putting out things out there that people can eventually find, YouTube videos, podcasts, books, all that sort of stuff, showing that I know what I'm talking about. And then they also another quick thing, my personality might turn people off. Like I'm excited. I love talking about real estate. I'm an extrovert. And so that might turn people off. That's great. There are other people for you. But the great thing about having your content out there is that the people that it works for, that like it, they're going to stick around. And so it's self-weeding of people that aren't going to work well with me. Then they weed themselves out. They can work with somebody else. And so that's what I love is I create these systems that help me to continue my investing business.
Man, that's brilliant. So it sounds like really the main thing is just focus on building your credibility, your trustworthiness in the market, that people can rely on you. Not just for like, you're not giving financial advice, but just say, yeah, let me share my experience, the things that have worked for me, things that might work for you. I don't know, but I think building that and just becoming reliable and putting out that evergreen content it sounds like that has been supremely helpful for you now.
That's if I were to point anything to how I got better. In fact, I talked about a little bit about scarcity versus abundance mindset. Back when I first started investing in 2006, I had a scarcity mindset. Like I can't talk to anybody about it because I don't want them to be my competition and everything like that. But then there's a switch in me when I first started coaching people. I realized that my students are not my competition. Other real estate investors are not my competition. In fact, I realized that my students were getting so much more success when they were around other students. And everybody was winning. And then that got me to realize I need to have an abundance mindset. Like even though I was coaching people, which was great because that's what I want to do is help people. But I even started getting part of their deals and like helping them out. And so honestly, like the mindset shift of abundance and how do I serve more people? And then having that evergreen content gets out there. People think, I trust this person. I like how they say, I like what they say. Let me start working with them.
That was brilliant, man. So if you were starting your investment career in 2026 with say just $2 million of deployable capital, no properties, what would be your first 3 moves and what would you avoid at all costs?
Wow. Okay. So my first goal, and I'm going to assume that this person, like if it was me starting over, and I was starting over from scratch, I had a job. I had a job that and I call it a JOB. It's you're working just over broke. That's what JOB stands for. You're living just over broke. And I realized that if I had more time, that all of my value was not going to somebody else, but if I had more time and my capacity to build my own business, to invest in my own things and do everything that I want, that's going to be worth so much more. Plus, like I said earlier, time doesn't matter. Only life. Life matters. So your life, if you spend your life working for somebody else, your life's wasted. My suggestion is as soon as you can, get to the point where you're not working for somebody else. So take that $2 million. Let's say you have $2 million in deployable capital and no properties. I personally was so focused on cash flow so that I did not have my expenses worried, like household expenses, food and mortgage and all that sort of stuff, depending on somebody else that needs to give me a job. I want to buy property. So that's what I first would do is I would buy cash flowing real estate that I then covered my expenses so I can quit my job. Then once I quit my job, I would have time and energy and resources to do so much more. And the next one, we go into what I just talked about a little bit earlier. I'd build up so much content. I would do 100%. I would do this all over again because it's been so amazing. In fact, my social media, I wasn't a big fan of social media until I really started getting kind of used to it. But now I've grown my Instagram to 250,000 followers organically. No bots, no nothing. It's literally hard work in a year. In a year, I built it up. But then I get people wanting to invest in my deals just by me posting on social media. So let me say, in building up your content, and if you're trying to raise capital, how would you like to get for free, no ad money, 30,000 views on your deal, on your property, on your deal? Well, because I've been doing this for so long, I only put out one reel because I have lots of followers, because I've been doing it for so long, podcasts, and all that sort of stuff. I put out one reel that says, hey, I'm buying this house or this property right here. We own this one. I tell the entire story. And I say, comment the word Cove on the reel, comment the word Cove, and I will send you a DM to get you to see if you want to invest in my deal and get all the information from you. I've got 30,000 people for free looking at this, and I've got dozens and dozens of people replying and saying, hey, I'm an accredited investor. I want to invest in your deal. I'm like, man, that was so easy. So that is another thing I would do, is start building up credibility and content to show you're credible. And then credible becomes reliable, and then trustworthy, and the people want to invest with you. But at the same time, I love not having mortgages on my properties. So I would also build up enough cash flow to start paying off the property so my cash flow grows even more. But that's what I would do if I had that deployable capital. But I mean, in the end, if you're thinking, would I rather own a 1,000-unit apartment complex or never have to work a job again? Like, pick one of the two. I still have to work a job and own 1,000 units. No. You don't want the apartment. You want your freedom. You want your life, and then go buy those things.
Brilliant. And what would you avoid?
I would avoid hoping that values go up. I would avoid that, because I know they're going to go up. Don't get me wrong. They will go up, but you don't know if there's ever going to be a correction. In fact, I know there are some big name podcasters that got into apartment complexes that were raising capital that are really hurting, and their investors are really hurting. They're doing capital calls, definitely stopping distribution. They got in fact, one of them, I'm not going to say his name, but specifically put out a reel saying, hey, I just got to talk to you guys about what's going on right now. I got these bad loans, and it's only a year loan, and I thought we were going to get out of it, refinance, but this X, Y, and Z. I'm like, yeah, you were just hoping that the value would go up. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to hope that it goes up. I know it's going to go up, but in time, I want to, from day one, always be making money. Another thing, I don't want to do anything myself. I don't want to run the business myself. I don't want to call tenants. I don't want any of that stuff. I want to be around people. Remember, like I said, real estate's not about properties. Real estate is about people. If you focus on people, even your tenants, focus on your tenants. If you focus on serving people, your life will get better. Their life will get better. You'll make more money. They'll make more money. Everything is so much better.
Classic. Okay. So before we wrap things up, final thoughts, anything else, anything that you'd want our fans to know, ways to reach out to you, anything at all?
Yeah, well, definitely reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram. I love getting DMs, the Dustin Heiner. So THE Dustin Heiner. You'll find me on there. Like I said, over 250,000. I'll usually pop up pretty quick. But at the same time, would you mind if I gave everybody a free course just for listening?
I would not mind that at all. You go right ahead.
Awesome. Because you are a part of the Making Billions community. I love this community. I'm so glad you're a part of it. And this community is amazing, but I want to give it to you completely for free. And I'll show you how to build a business anywhere in the country, make cash flow to be able to quit your job. If you text the word rental, RENTAL, text the word rental to 33777. Rental to 33777, or you can go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course, and I'll give it to you right away. All one word, /free course. But I'll show you how to do all this stuff. And one quick last thing. So my podcast, the Master Passive Income Podcast, like I said, I mean, we're 400 plus episodes now, 2.2 million downloads. It's just a solo show. Me telling people, this is how I invest. This is what I'm doing. And this is how I get people in, like a side note, this is why people trust me, because they've been listening to me for 10 years. Podcasting, they've been listening to it for 400 plus episodes, and they're like, I like this Dustin character. Let me start investing with him. So it works out great. But no, I love the community. I'm so glad to be a part of the Making Billions community.
You sure are, brother. So just to summarize everything Dustin and I spoke about, focus on being wealthy and not just another rich person. Both are okay, but if you truly want to reach the pinnacle like Dustin did, is you want to have time and money, and that typically comes from being an owner more than an operator. Second thing is focus on cash flow and de-risk your deals by paying down debt. Being over leveraged makes you focus more on a hope and you hope this happens and that doesn't happen, or you just focus on paying down, which is another fancy way of saying pay down and de-risk the deal. And finally, build your reputation, relationships, and results so that you can have capital and deals come to you. You do these things and you too will be well on your way in your pursuit of making billions.